The tale starts in a creepy, empty factory where a gang had tied Xiao Yong up over a cage packed with zombies. The gang boss declared that all his friends are gone, and he saw no reason to keep living. Xiao Yong felt no guilt for what happened, only hatred for the woman, and he believed she deserved to die a terrible death. Meanwhile, she wrapped her arms around a huge man, laughing at him and pretending he was threatening her again, while also boasting that they could torture him however they pleased, even thanking him for the supplies he had left in the base they raided, since those food stores would keep them alive for a few more months. Soon after, they tossed Xiaong into the cage with the zombies. With his arms tied behind him, he had no way to fight back as the horde brutally attacked him. In the horror of it all, Xiaong promised himself that if he got another chance, he'd kill Qixing no matter the price. Suddenly, he jolted awake on his couch, still sweating from the nightmare that had just ended. Suddenly, Kuai-jing showed up and asked why her name wasn't on the property deed, suggesting he didn't truly love her. Xiao Yong stood frozen in disbelief and horror, realizing he was back before the apocalypse, a dark future he knew all too well. In the nightmare, Kuai-jing tricked him by faking desperation to win his trust, only to betray him and let the enemies break into his base. Because of her, he lost everything and ended up wandering the streets, trying to survive the zombie apocalypse. When the world fell apart, he found true friends to survive with but never forgot Kuai-jing's betrayal. So when he saw her in the past still complaining about her share of the property, he knew she was the same despicable person no matter which future he had seen, and he decided he couldn't act on impulse this time. Qi-jing gave him one last week to fix everything, but he just tossed her out of the apartment and said he'd handle it himself. Then he slammed the door in her face, leaving Qing stunned outside, wondering how she could have thought she was running him like a servant when he just acted so cold. But now Xiong knew exactly who she was and what was coming, and seeing the clock, he realized only 1 month remained before the world turned into a nightmare, so he decided to start preparing right away. Suddenly, a game-like system window popped up before him, telling him the apocalypse system had finally awakened. The system gave him a list of urgent tasks, with the very first being to prepare for the apocalypse by buying land and gathering enough food and supplies to last a year, earning him 10 points to spend in the shop on things like a potion to make him stronger, a basic survival kit, or a special starter box for a hero. He couldn't stop staring at the unbelievable sight in front of him, yet he was ready to grab this rare chance. He thought back to his wasteful life before the apocalypse and realized the zombies would arrive in a month. So he decided to treat himself to one last fancy meal at an expensive restaurant, ordering dishes he had never tried. He ate with pure joy, as if this meal were his last chance to live normally, right until his phone rang. It was Shuya, Kajing's friend and supposed girlfriend, and Xiang instantly realized she had been listening to Kajing complain. As he picked up the call, he heard Shuya screaming that Kajing hadn't been on the property because the test had failed, demanding $1 million transfer and an apology on his knees before the relationship would be over. Xiang just shook her head at how silly it all was and hung up on her. He knew he couldn't waste time on them and had to focus on the mission ahead. He needed to find a piece of land fast enough to build a safe fortress that could protect him from both zombies and people. Later, he headed to a real estate agency to sort it out. When he arrived, the receptionist asked if he wanted to buy or rent a home, but Xiaoyong shook his head and said it was neither. The manager, judging by his attire, pulled the receptionist aside to send her to restock supplies, claiming she hadn't learned much in the past few days. He insisted Xiaoyong wasn't a real customer because of his plain clothes and accused her of wasting time on her. The manager laughed at Xiaoyong's low status, claiming he couldn't even rent a bathroom, and even promised he'd eat his own poop if Xiaoyong ever had enough money to buy a house. Xiaoyong stayed cool, promising something fresh to eat later, and explained that he wasn't looking for a regular house to rent, sell, or buy, but rather to purchase land. When he flashed his black card, everyone gasped at how much money he had. The receptionist hurried back to guide him, showing him the land plots with a careful tour. Meanwhile, the manager kept insisting that Jia Yong was only trying to show off and didn't actually have the money. Even so, she showed him a catalog of lands with their ups and downs, so he could pick the right place to start getting ready for the end of the world. Xiang told the agent he didn't need more talk and just want a list of every piece of land near the mountains and water, with a river and easy roads, perfect even for building a factory. Manager Zhu cut the agent off, pointing out that those requirements matched the plots in the Eastern District perfectly. But the woman argued it was impossible because there were only unfinished, abandoned factories with no clear way to sell them to serious customers. Manager Zhu kept insulting Xie Liang for being difficult and claiming he wasn't serious about buying. But Xie Liang's serious pressed the agent on whether the Eastern District truly met the needs, and when she confirmed it, explaining that the unfinished factories had structural issues, Shaoliang saw it as the perfect spot because its location was easy to defend and buying a partial build would save him a fortune. So he immediately decided to take the land, pay up, and sign the contract, leaving. The confused agent shocked that he actually wanted to buy an incomplete factory. Meanwhile, manager Zhu just laughed, saying the deposit was way too high to even be real, but everything changed when Xiang pulled out his black card and proved he had the money, shocking everyone in the room. While he quickly pointed out he had to leave right away because someone was waiting for a fresh, delicious meal. As soon as manager Zhu saw Xiao Yong had actually paid the 30 million for the land, the agency staff rushed to pressure him into keeping his promise to eat feces and even started recording his desperate meltdown, while Xiang felt a wave of relief that his first mission to secure territory for the apocalypse was finally done. Even though he worried about the high cost, he knew he had to keep buying supplies to stay ready. Meanwhile, one arrived at the agency, spotted the chaos, and asked what was going on. As he walked in, he saw that everyone was making manager Zhu keep a humiliating promise, which he thought was truly strange. While Kuei Jing was busy tidying up her clutter at home on the other side of town, she got a call from Xu Chong, who told her that he had gone to the agency to buy a plot of land. She was stunned and demanded to know how he had gotten so much money, but Xu Chong explained that he had deposited 30 million, likely from savings meant for their engagement, which made Ku Jing furious because she was sure he had used her money to buy the land. So Jigxiong tried to calm her down by suggesting she talk to Shoyong to understand, but she refused, claiming he was rebelling against her and threatening to expose him on the internet that very day. Meanwhile, Xiong sat safely at home, quietly planning his next move, knowing he needed plenty of cash to buy enough food and gear to last a whole year. All of a sudden, he heard a loud, angry pounding on the door. It was Koi Jing and Shuya, her friend. Koi Jing demanded to know how he could dare spend her money to buy that land. Jeong snapped, insisting the money was his and that he'd never waste another cent on her. He made fun of her for asking Jeong for help since they were such close friends. Ku Jing stood frozen, baffled by how she could possibly know their secret was out. While Schwa rushed to say it was all a mistake, Xiuyang stood firm and declared there was no misunderstanding, because Ku Jing was never his girlfriend and he never belonged to her. He slammed the door shut without letting them argue, leaving Kuei Jiang stunned in the hallway as she tried to process her secret romance with Xu Jiang, while Xu Jiang gently asked about her friend Xu Chong only for Kuei Jing to confirm they had already met several times, much to the dismay of Shuya, who wasn't really a good friend. Silently, she saw the clash between Shou Yong and Ku Jing as her perfect chance to get closer to him, plan to win him over, claim his money, and even take the land he had just bought, especially now that he was already at his new property checking the plans. He hired a contractor to finish the half-built factory, but wanted it turned into a real fortress. So he told the engineer he needed reinforced walls, guard towers, barbed wire, thick steel doors, and bulletproof glass. The curious engineer asked why he needed all of that. Zone cut straight to the chase, asking only if the project could be done in a month. But the engineer shook his head and said it was impossible without more cash and extra hands. So Xiaoyang's firm stepped up and promised to pay a huge sum with a big down payment to make it happen. Xiang agreed to move the money that very day and promised he wouldn't let the contractor down, even offering to let the contractor keep the land if he ever failed to pay. Just as the deal was sealed, Xia burst onto the construction site, tackled Xiang, and acted like she was terrified. Inside, he let out a sigh, knowing he now had to deal with yet another parasite, while Shia plotted to seduce Xiaoyong, betray her friend to steal his property, as Xiang questioned her presence, and Kuei Jing marveled at the beautiful land, wondering if he planned to build a villa there. Xiang and Sirius shoved Ku Jing away, making it clear this wasn't her business, which confused her since he usually blushed when touched, but now just rejected her without a second thought. Xiang just turned away from her to help the workers at the site. While Shuya clutched her golden chance, Ku Jing slipped hers away and now had to fight to keep the land, just as Xiang rushed home with his loan and most payments made, knowing he still needed a mountain of cash to buy what he needed to build. Just as he realized the apocalypse was coming, he decided to sell his apartment for cash, only to be interrupted by a knock at the door from the building's troublemaker neighbor, an old man who constantly harassed him and now claimed Xiang had been out partying the night before. Xiang laughed it off, saying he must be senile for going to bed early and that even if he did go out, it was none of anyone's business. He then wondered if the old man was doing all that just to get the apartment. When the old man showed interest, Xiang agreed to sell, but set one rule. He needed 6 more months to stay in the old house until his new one was ready, and he demanded 5 million paid right away. He made it absolutely clear that the deal wouldn't happen unless those terms were accepted. The old man reluctantly agreed and signed the contract, warning Xiang not to regret it. while Xiang ironically welcomed the old man's presence as he secured his plans and gathered enough money to buy a year's worth of supplies. After earning his reward for securing the land, he rushed to the store, pushed carts overflowing with goods all the way to the checkout counter without a moment's pause. With everyone watching his many purchases with curious eyes, wondering what he was planning, some even joked that he must have believed the rumors about the world ending. Finally, he succeeded in finishing his part of the mission and earned another 10 points for his efforts. He figured that in the apocalypse, stronger stats were a must, and since the hero's box cost exactly 10 points, he knew exactly where to spend them. Without a second's thought, he grabbed the box and walked away with a level 1 spatial ring, a magical 500-meter pocket where time stood still so his food never went bad, his ice never melted, and everything stayed perfect forever, making it the perfect prize in his eyes. Next, the system handed him a fresh mission. Grab 10 years' worth of supplies to earn 20 points. Just then, the store manager named Yangta arrived and started looking around to find out who was causing the trouble. When Yangta spotted Xia Yong, he instantly recognized the old rival from their high school days, and knowing Xia Yong had never backed down before, he was ready to face him again. Yong Tao told Xiao Yong to put everything back on the shelves, warning him that he would be arrested if he kept making trouble. Xiao Yong asked if he still thought they were in school, and told him he was just there to buy something. Yong Tao shook his head and said he wasn't sure if he had enough money to cover it all. It took the cashiers more than an hour to scan every single item, which added up to a total of 56,884. Yong Tao asked for his money, but Xiong just calmly swiped his card to show he could pay right then. Just as Yong Tao was about to walk away, Xiong called out to stop him and asked for an apology first. Yong Tao tried to say no, warning him not to take his kindness for granted. Meanwhile, other shoppers started filming the incident, claiming he had been needlessly rude and that he had to say sorry. Shirong said that if he apologized, he'd buy 10 times more. Yong Tao reluctantly bowed his head and apologized, as Xiaoyong scolded him for being irresponsible and warned him never to underestimate anyone again. Yong Tao finally asked why he was buying so much like that, but Xiaoyong just said it wasn't his business and that he wanted to build up a huge pile. Yong Tao tried to pull himself together and said the store probably wasn't big enough. Xiaoyong asked if he knew where to buy more, and Yong Tao said yes, reminding him to ask about Sean, who also handles big sales. Later, Yong Tao popped up claiming to have found a huge supplier for him, and Xiaoyong just rolled his eyes, thinking Yong Tao was still the same greedy lapdog chasing commissions, while he himself didn't care who the new contact was as long as it meant he could restock. Eventually, they reached the massive warehouse overflowing with goods. Shang rolled up behind the wheel, driving like a maniac and nearly running Yong Tao down. Shay Liang watched the guy flash around in bright clothes and while driving, shaking his head and thinking, that flashy act must mean he's actually a real nice guy, right? Shang just stepped in with smoke curling from his lips, staring right at Yang Ta to ask if this was the big deal, and Yang Ta nodded, saying it was Xiaoyong, the guy he knew from school. Shangja acted like he remembered, blew even more smoke in Shioi's face, and joked that the kid used to be pretty bold back in school. Then he laughed at him, sneering that his clothes were surely fake and hating anyone who pretended to be rich. But Xiaoyong, tired of the fight, simply said it wasn't the time to talk about that because he was there to buy, not to argue. Shanghai refused to let go, instead starting a fight with Yong Tao and demanding to know if this was truly the big client or just a waste of his time. Yong Tao tried to ease the tension by saying Xiaoyong actually had the cash, but Shanghai, who knew the business well, insisted he could tell the real buyers from the fakes. Xiaoyong grumbled to himself that his buyer's bad luck was real, because even a low-level thug like Shanghai couldn't be taken seriously. Then Shanghai seized him by the collar and demanded respect. Xiaoyong stayed calm, but he angered him by calling him a pathetic little bottom feeder. Shanghai's face twisted in anger at the insult, and he shoved Yong Tao out of the way to storm into a serious conversation with Xiaoyong, warning him that if he didn't buy, he'd be in deep trouble. Shirao Yong said he needed to ditch that shady jacket first, and then check how much money was left in his account. Xianga was shocked to spend $1 million on one trip, but Xiaoyong proved he was serious, offering $5 million instantly for real supplies loaded onto a truck to deliver right to his home. Shanghai asked what supplies he needed, and Xiaoyong answered that he wanted rice, oil, salt, drinks, and any food that would last a long time. Shanghai happily accepted, thinking he'd found his lucky break, not realizing the merchant just wanted to dump his pile of nearly rotten food to clear out his old stock. Later, inside the massive warehouse, Shanghai gave a 10% discount for the big order, but Xiaoyong looked closely and found that many items were already past their date. He was annoyed when they tried to trick him, making it clear that the cost would change based on how good the items were. Shanghai tried to make himself look good by offering half-price deals on the expired stuff, But Xiaong refused to pay for trash and insisted on spending his full 5 million on quality goods. Still, he promised to take the expired stuff too, but he'd wait until next month to pay for it. Xiang Jiao grew suspicious and asked why he wanted the expired items. But Xiang simply dismissed his concern, whispering that food close to or past its expiration date would be worth a fortune in just a few days. Xiang Jojo pressed for answers, but Xiaoyong just waved him off to handle the delivery details while Xiang took a business call, feeling like a real big shot. He asked Shangja to take charge of everything while he dealt with his own business. The moment he was gone, Yong Tao told Shangja that he'd been an amazing client, and Shan Jut agreed, but admitted he still didn't get how Xiaoyong managed to do so well in life. Later on, Shirao Yong closed another deal for the very same house he had already sold to the pushy old man. He discovered a new buyer ready to put down a 400,000 deposit, even though he wouldn't be able to move in until 3 months later. As Xiaoyong signed the contract, he looked at the old man's desperate face and asked him straight out about it. The man begged us not to raise the price, saying he desperately needed the house because his granddaughter was moving schools, and this spot was perfect for them. Xiaoyong promised him he wouldn't, but made sure he knew he had the choice to do it if he really wanted to. They signed the deal, and the old man thanked him, vowing to leave him alone. Xiaoyong thought the man was too soft and kind-hearted to survive the harsh world of the apocalypse. Before the old man departed, Xiaoyong made sure to get his current address. A few days later, he ran his business as the old factory finally got its new look. He spoke with the engineer about the project progress, who said it was nearly done, sitting somewhere between 70 and 80% complete. The doors were now super strong, and the big warehouse inside was clean and open. Xiaoyong was happy and told Shangja he could start bringing the supplies right away. Later, a bunch of trucks started dumping their cargo into the huge factory warehouse. With the apocalypse closing in, Xiaoyong pushed the workers to move fast so they could split the supplies into piles of food, veggies, fish, and meat before it all went down. The work dragged on all day and finally ended with the sun dipping low. After everything was ready, Zhang finally felt relief that he had finished his 10-year quest to gather supplies. As he checked the system store, he spotted a shiny new box called Skill Awakening sitting right next to the level 1 box, making him feel incredibly lucky to snag it before the apocalypse even started. Without even thinking twice, he grabbed the Awakening box and unlocked the Mind's Eye skill, which let him instantly sense when anyone was angry at him. Joyong realized this was a godsend for the apocalypse, because now he finally knew exactly who to trust and who to avoid. Soon after, a new mission named Armed to the Teeth popped up, challenging him to stock up on as many weapons as he could find for a reward of 10 points and a surprise item. For Jaeum, it was perfect since he was already set on doing exactly that. Later that night, he stumbled onto a black market where everyone acted like it was just a regular, harmless place. Everyone kept their faces visible, even as people sold drugs and guns right there in the open. This same customer returned again, trying to sell a jade bracelet that he probably stole, smuggled, or faked just to trick Kuo Jing into thinking it was real. Xiaoyong, who was buying weapons, looked on with disgust, thinking, even I used to do shady deals in the past, and it's a shame Qing might fall for a trick like that. With his eyes locked on his goal, Xiaoyong finally found what he was looking for, weapons, and while he stared at the tiny knives in the shop, he asked the seller if there wasn't anything heavier. In reply, the man just tossed him a whetstone and said, if you want something heavier, sharpen it yourself. Xiaoyong wasn't happy with that and demanded something far more powerful. The wary seller questioned if he was causing trouble, but Xiaoyong immediately scanned the shop's QR code to send 200,000, proving he truly just wanted to make a purchase. The seller sent another man to guard the shop and led Xiaoyong away to a quieter corner. Standing there, he handed over a simple revolver and offered it for 2,000, noting that the bullets were cheap. Xiaoyong said no, saying a toy wouldn't do, and explained that the 200,000 was only a small down payment on a full arsenal worth 2 million. The seller, caught off guard and careful, asked what kind of work the other man did. Xiaoyong admitted he usually left small tasks to his team, but since things were changing, he decided to stop the seller from asking any more questions. The seller nodded, locked up the place, whispered that Xiaoyong had finally found the right deal maker, and told him to write down his wants. Meet him at that address at midnight tomorrow with all the money to finish the deal. As Shirao Yong walked out of the shop, the seller bowed and showed him deep respect. He then spotted the same guy from earlier at the black market, where he struck a deal to swap another item while thinking about all the people he'd met. He spotted familiar faces in the black market selling everything from weapons to fake jewels, knowing many bought the fakes just to trick others. So like Hu Jing, Xiaoliang tested his sharp side on the comm. Please seller before seeing the hostility icon hover over an arrogant buyer. Xiaoyong was thrilled to finally know who was dangerous, and while watching the fake jewelry scam, he couldn't believe how shameless people were about cheating others without a second thought. The shopkeeper sensed the tension and asked if he knew that customer, to which Xiang replied that he was more of an enemy than a friend. The seller vowed to give the man a hard lesson, but Xiang begged them to spare his life since he had his own plans for him. Afterward, the shop staff chased down the hostile buyer, who panicked and tried to talk his way out of the situation. He was finally kicked out of the black market, bruised and covered in boot prints, muttering that it was all Xiang's fault and vowing revenge one day. 2 days later, at Xiang's base, he finally got his weapons. After finishing that heavily armed mission, he earned 10 more points, bringing his total to 20, and now he walks away with pistols, submachine guns, plenty of ammo, and a special potion that boosts his strength. Xiang felt a surge of excitement, because this potion worked twice as hard as the ones you could buy at the store. He didn't even wait a second. He used it right on himself. He checked his system and found that while a normal adult man had 5 physique points, adding 2 more would boost his strength by 40%. To get even stronger, he bought another potion to boost his body to level 1, giving him 8 physique points and 60% more strength than an average person. He decided to test it out by grabbing a steel bar and kicking it so hard that it bent and shot into the wall. Xiang felt proud, knowing his new strength meant he could beat anyone in a fight and never fear zombies. With his weapons safely tucked away in his ring, he thought about how the apocalypse would begin in 2 days and started planning what else he needed to do. That's when he remembered an old man who had always been kind to him, and despite the danger of people, Xie Liang decided to send supplies to help him survive as a way to repay the old man for funding him. The next morning, Xie Liang made his way to the old man's home. He felt thankful for his GPS, since tracking down that tiny house had been quite a challenge. As Xiang climbed the stairs, he realized the old man was in poor health and just wanted to get moving. Without even knocking, he decided to leave the supplies outside because he couldn't explain how to take them out of the spatial ring later. So, he gently took every box out of the ring and laid them on the floor. When the old man opened the door, he looked ready to be asked for rent, but his face fell when he saw Shou Yong standing there covered in boxes. Confused, he asked what was going on, but Xiang only asked him to grab everything and hurry inside before the neighbors noticed. After helping to move everything inside, the old man joked that young folks really have so much energy since he could no longer lift even a few boxes because of his age. As Xiang checked out the house, he found the door looked pretty tough. Then he turned to the old man and shared a vital secret. The supplies he had would last them only half a year, so they must use them wisely, for starting the next day, the world would change forever. At that moment, Xiang spotted a framed photo on the dresser showing an old man and a girl named Shan Shan, who was his friend from a past life. So he asked if the old man's granddaughter was really named Shan, and when the old man confirmed it and asked how he knew, Xiang realized the old man hadn't told him before. Xiang asked where she was now, and the old man told her she was studying in his hometown, but once he moved his house, he planned to send her to a new school as soon as the papers were ready. Xiang suddenly remembered his past life, where he clearly recalled Shan Han feeling terrible guilt over her grandfather's death, believing she had caused it. Knowing the old man had risked everything to pull her out of that school trap when the apocalypse started, Shou vowed that this time she'd have no regrets. He told the old man that he wouldn't let him move into the house and that he still planned to sell it. He warned that starting tomorrow, the world would turn into a real hell, making everything from his own home to the school worthless, so the only thing that mattered was to rush to the school and get Shan right away. The old man didn't understand what he was saying, so Xiaoyang, unsure how to explain it, asked if he had ever lived in a starving, poor place where everyone suffers. He warned that the whole world would soon be thrown into misery and hunger. So to prove he wasn't just talking, Xiang snapped his fingers and sucked every single item in the house right into his spatial ring. The old man stared in shock, wondering just what kind of magic he was seeing. Xiaoyang revealed he could see the future and demanded we listen to him to save our lives. So he drove us straight to Shan's school despite the old man's deep fear. Shurao Yong hurried along, eager for the big moment to begin. And when he asked the old man for directions to his granddaughter's dorm, the man happily agreed to lead the way. While everyone else was at school, Shanshan was being attacked at the gate by a jealous girl who slapped her hard because the boy she liked was paying attention to Shanshan instead. Shansen tried to explain that it was all one-sided, since she had already told him she wouldn't be with him. Then another girl showed up and kicked her in the ribs, claiming it was just a fake excuse. As the bullies kept mocking her, Xiang and her grandfather suddenly showed up and told them to back off. Then the crowd defending the bullies arrived with knives and bats, turning things really dangerous. Even so, the old man didn't pause and just ran straight at them. Just as a boy swung a bat to hit him, Xiang caught the blow mid-air and quietly asked if that was how to treat their elders. The troublemakers laughed at him, thinking they could crush him any day, but Sha Yong stood his ground without a single shiver. The first attacker got sent flying with a powerful kick. The other two grew more careful once they saw how well-trained he was. Even with one person holding a knife and another a bat, Xiong stayed calm. He slipped out of the way of the bat's swing so quickly it barely happened. He noticed his reflexes were faster now because of the physical upgrades he'd received. He swung the bat at his opponent, slammed him hard onto the ground, and knocked him out in an instant. Then he grabbed the man with the knife and slammed him down, making him hit his head on the hard floor. The girls who tried to hurt Shan were left standing there, completely stunned. Shoang stepped forward and slapped the group's leader without listening to any excuses. He then snatched another girl by her hair and pressed the blade to her neck, only to slice off a long lock of hair instead of hurting her. The girl was furious, but Xiang insisted that this cut might one day save her life. So after turning to Shanshin and saying they were leaving, she was left confused, wondering where they were going and who he really was. Already inside the car, Shanshin argued she couldn't leave school, while her grandfather tried to explain that, just like Xiang had told him, terrible hunger was coming soon. Shinar couldn't believe it, warning her grandfather not to fall for this scam, as he always did, but the old man insisted it was real. She still couldn't believe him, even as he insisted it was real, while Xiang promised himself that this time he would truly protect Shan. He clarified that it wasn't her grandfather who had been tricked, but rather that her grandfather had simply told him about the famine. When Shanhan asked who he was, he introduced himself as Brother Shai and told her to call him that. And though she thanked him for his help, she still felt confused and wanted to know exactly what this famine was that he spoke of. Xiang told her grandfather that calling it a famine was just a gentle way to warn him that a terrifying apocalypse was coming. That left Shan trembling with fear. Xiang promised things were about to begin, and seconds later, he told her to check her phone since news and videos of the unfolding events would already be out. As Shan checked her phone, the first video showed a subway rider going feral and biting others, soon joined by more clips of people falling unconscious and turning into zombies. Xiang stepped forward and explained with a heavy heart that those were the first signs, meaning the next day would be the start of the end. Xiang told Shanshin that her grandfather warned of a poisonous fog rising soon, spreading across the lands and hitting Province B. This fog would infect everyone, slowly turning them into zombies. Those who aren't bitten will be hunted and eaten by the infected, and once they die, they'll rise up as zombies too. He told Shan that since she was young, she must have heard of zombies, and while she admitted they only existed in movies and games, Xiaoyang warned her that soon the real world would change, and those fake monsters would appear right before her eyes. The moment they started talking, the traffic came to a complete stop. They were stuck in a huge traffic jam because the emergency lane was blocked off by barricades. Xiaoyang's face darkened as he realized they might get caught by a zombie horde any moment now, knowing that if society fell apart within a few days, they'd be stuck in deadly traffic, right when another car slammed into his side and forced its way into the emergency lane. He got really mad when he saw the driver didn't even use his turn signal and just tried to rush right through all the other cars. Xiong refused to let it pass, so he steered his car in to cut off the other driver's path. The drivers yelled and cursed at each other, but they both stayed stuck in the traffic jam. After nearly an hour, they finally made it away, but Shan warned that the black car was circling back to try to pass them again. Her grandfather told Xiong not to fight back, saying it wasn't worth getting down to that person's level. But Xiong said that in normal times he'd let it slide, yet with the apocalypse looming tomorrow, he wouldn't tolerate it. He sped up, slammed into the other car, and knocked it onto the shoulder. The other driver jumped out of his wrecked car, furious and trying to write down Xiao Yong's license plate, but Xiao Yong had already vanished. The man in the suit kept screaming that he had just messed with the wrong guy. After getting stuck in heavy traffic, they finally reached Xiaoliang's big base, and Shan and her grandfather were amazed by how huge it was. Xiaoyang asked them to rest since they have a big day ahead. The next morning, Xiong sipped his coffee and took in the view while Shan stretched, complaining she hadn't slept well in ages but enjoying the fact that she didn't have to go to school. Xiong suggested that since she was awake, they should go check out the fortress. He showed that the walls weren't just plain concrete, but were tough, armored, and reinforced, while the massive steel gate, 3 centimeters thick, was locked with digital security to keep anyone out. From the very beginning, he made it plain that only the 3 of them could get in without asking first. Shanjian then asked what they would do if they found people who had survived and were calling out for help. Xie Yong invited her along, so he could explain things much better. As they stepped outside, he warned her that in this ruined world, human hearts would become as wild and hard to read as the storm. He warned that once the world falls apart, people will finally show their true, selfish, and cruel selves. He led her to a makeshift camp he'd built outside the fortress walls, telling her survivors could rest there, but would never be allowed inside the main gates. After showing them where to find every kind of food, Xiaoyang used his inner sight to decide if he could truly trust the two. He realized they trusted him completely. Then, he used his special ring to pull out crates bursting with weapons, explaining that in this dangerous world, keeping arms safe and under control was the only way to stop them from ending up with the wrong people. The grandfather nodded right away and said yes. Suddenly, a new mission popped up in the Xiaoyang system, kicking off a chain of tasks called Old Companions after meeting Shan, and the next step was to save his old ally Qi to earn 20 points. A big arrow showed up on the screen to point exactly where you were. Xiang rushed to tell his two companions he had to leave right away to find one more guard for the fortress, but he left them with a serious warning. No one was to enter unless he said so, and all weapons had to stay locked away and under strict control. While others danced in the rain, Zongqi was laughing and singing loudly with his friends in a noisy karaoke bar. At one point, he stepped out with a friend just to use the restroom and grab a few more drinks. While walking down the hallway, a girl bumped right into him by mistake. Even though it was her mistake, Zongqi apologized, but the man with her got mad, shoved him, and yelled at him to watch where he was going. Zongqi's friend checked on him and joked that the other guy seemed crazy for wanting to fight over nothing. The angry man, bubbling with rage, grabbed his friend by the collar and shouted at him too. Just then, a karaoke worker stepped in to break up the fight and tell them to stop. The angry man spun around to the worker and demanded to know if he was being rude by putting a hand on him. The employee kept cool, asked the angry customer to go, and promised to take care of everything. Meanwhile, Zongqi and his buddy grabbed the moment to vanish before anyone could catch them. As soon as they returned to the room, their friends couldn't help but ask what had just happened. My friend told me they nearly came to blows in the hallway. Zongqi tried to act like it didn't matter and said it was already done, urging everyone to just enjoy the rest of the night. But the truth was that it wasn't over at all. A short while later, the angry man came back with his whole gang, and the beaten employee who tried to stop the fight kicked the door open, and the leader pointed at Zongqi and his friends, declaring they would settle things differently, leaving everyone pinned down right there. One of Zongqi's friends asked why they were doing this, but the gang leader refused to answer, instead smashing a whiskey bottle over his head to knock him down. Zongqi let out a loud scream, calling out to his friend Chong as he rushed to help him. Outside, Xiaoyang stepped into the karaoke bar and saw exactly what he expected. A high school student acting like the world was ending while he sang and had a great time. After the bottle attack, the aggressor turned to the woman and asked if she was feeling better, but she shook her head, explaining it wasn't her friend who bumped into her, but Zongqi. So the aggressor spun around to Zongqi, got her confirmation, and pointed a finger right at him. Chong tried to stand up and help his friend, but got hit on the head again and fell down badly hurt. That sent Zongqi spiraling out of control, and he began throwing wild punches at the gang members. Another friend was so scared he curled up in the corner, frozen with fear and unable to do anything. Meanwhile, the karaoke worker started to feel terrible, with weird things happening to his body. In the middle of the fight, he suddenly turned into a zombie. He turned his first bite into the neck of a gang member, tearing the flesh with savage force. That sudden attack sent everyone into a frenzy, and then he snapped at someone else, making the chaos spread even faster. Everyone held their breath in fear until a brave soul stepped up to hold the zombie back. Xiaoyang hurled the creature into the room's large screen and shouted for everyone to halt right now. The crowd stood frozen in disbelief as he lifted the creature with just one hand. The gang leader was so shocked he shouted, "Who are you?" Xiang turned to Jiangyi to ask if he'd been bitten, but Zongqi shook his head in confusion, saying he'd never even met him. But Xiaoyang simply told him to follow, promising to explain everything later. The gang boss scrambled to take charge again, shouting that the fight wasn't over yet. The very first guy to get bitten was already spinning, dizzy, and confused. Jean watched closely and saw him ready to turn. The wound on his neck was already a sign that the sickness had taken hold. Without a second's delay, Shine grabbed the man and flung him into a nearby room, slamming the door shut because he knew the zombies couldn't figure out how to open it yet. He glanced at Zongqi and asked who needed to be sent down there. Zongqi, still confused, asked if they really knew each other. But before he could answer, one of the gang members suddenly lunged at Xiaoyang. He lunged at the man and smashed his face right into the glass table. Just as another infected lunged at him, Xiaoyang knocked him out with one swift punch. The others were scared to see their friend shaking on the floor after getting hit. Xiaoyang quietly asked if anyone else wanted to keep fighting, but no one spoke up. Then he warned Zongqi to flee the spot right away, and soon enough, Jiangyi and his pals scrambled out of the room. The gang tried to follow, but Xiaoyang slammed the door shut and warned them that they had nearly killed one of his friends. He didn't step back. Instead, he lunged at the gang leader, flung him inside the room, slammed the door shut with the zombie, still trapped within, and left the horrified screams echoing from behind the locked wood. One employee showed up confused, but Xiaoyang told him to stay away from that door at all costs, and call the police immediately because rabies had spread to the people inside. The scared worker asked what rabies meant, but promised to call the police, while Shyam walked away with the group and told them never to return. Then another worker showed up, wondering what all the fuss was about. The first person said that rabies victims were locked up inside. They sprinted to the security room to check the cameras, only to find themselves horrified by what they saw. As the zombies tore each other apart inside, the head of security yelled for the police, while Xiaoyang had already led the group far away, knowing that place was no longer safe. Inside the car, BLI thanked Xiang for saving them, but didn't know who he really was. Xiang just said he was only hired to keep him safe and wouldn't tell who paid him. One of Jiangyi's friends questioned the rabies he mentioned, noting that online sources claimed it wasn't real, while Xiaoyang retorted by asking if the signs they had seen were just an illusion, and someone else pressed on whether there was any cure for it. Shou explained that there was no cure for this disaster and that it would only get worse over time. As the car rolled down the street, they watched infected people lunge at others, biting and spreading chaos. Xiang warned them that they were about to lose all control and had to follow his orders without fail if they wanted to live. Suddenly, the system popped up for Xiang, telling him he'd saved his old friend and finished the first book, which earned him 20 points. Xiang considered visiting the system shop, which offered 3 level 1 boxes for 2 points each, a post-apocalyptic farmer kit, a supply crate, and a weapons chest. He couldn't decide whether to buy the boxes right now or refresh the store himself, but he knew they'd be handy either way, so when he returned to the fortress, he'd finally focus on getting them. For the moment, he faced a much bigger problem. He didn't know who to trust. He clearly recalled that in his past life, one of Jiang Qi's friends had betrayed them, causing the whole dorm where Xiang lived to be destroyed and everyone inside to die, leaving Jiang as the sole survivor. Even now, Xiang still couldn't figure out which of the 3 friends was the traitor. While Qujin trembled and begged Shukong for the promised supplies, he gave her an answer. Outside was a mess so bad she couldn't even go to the store, and while Shukong said he'd bring supplies later, a sudden knock on the door made her jump. She peeked through the peephole and breathed a sigh of relief when she saw it was only Shua outside. She said she nearly had a heart attack from the scare, but Shuya explained that the old man from the first floor was taken away by police in an ambulance that morning. Fui Jing realized the chaos earlier was because of this, yet Shuya insisted the infection didn't look as terrifying as everyone said. The two of them went back to talking about supplies, but Ku Jing wasn't hopeful for Shu Chong, so Shuya explained that she had already warned him he wasn't trustworthy and mentioned that Xiang had a huge food stockpile that could make him rich during the pandemic. Ku Jing was shocked and asked how she knew, but Shuya explained that she'd been watching Xiang lately and saw trucks full of supplies being unloaded for him, which made Ku Jing suspect Xiang knew about the pandemic long before anyone else. Shuya pushed them to act fast, warning that once he started making money, they'd have to rush to grab a piece of the profit for themselves. In the meantime, Xiang had made it to the base with everyone else. Junk stood in awe of the fortress's massive size, and Shang chuckled, noting that was the reaction everyone shared. Chan Shan and her grandfather were so glad to be back home that they couldn't stop asking if he was truly okay. He said things were going well with Zhang and Zhang and promised to bring the new members in. Among all of them, Zhang and his friends were the most important, and after Chan Shan welcomed them, everyone was introduced. Sha asked Shang to lead them to the fortress and explain the rules, and Shang happily agreed, though the newcomer hiding in the corner also begged to be armed so they could help defend it. Shirao Yong gave him a sharp, angry glance. The big friend told him they had to earn trust first before asking for weapons. Xiaoyong promised that weapons would arrive in just a few days, but seeing Chong was badly hurt, he immediately ordered him taken to the infirmary. Later, Zhang and his friends took a shower and felt so much better. While they talked, Yuming asked why their friend had stopped asking for weapons. He told them that in their situation, they were allowed to protect themselves. Another friend insisted it wouldn't be right to leave Shirao Yong out. After all, he was the one who saved them. Yuming was sure the man was lying, since he'd never mentioned who hired him and had acted strangely toward Chong. Yang explained that while he had to watch over Chong, the infirmary was far safer than a prison. Still, they didn't trust Xiaoyong with their injured friend, and Yuming even whispered that Xiaoyong might sell Chong's organs, so they had to move first. When another friend dared to ask if he truly meant to repay kindness with betrayal, Yuming answered with icy calm that it was far better to turn on the world than let the world turn on him. He declared his plan to grab the fortress, noting that inside with them were only a small girl and an old man. He even made a rude joke about the girl that made the room feel heavy, so he laughed it off by saying he was just kidding. But Jang told him to stop, saying that even in the end of the world, there was no excuse to become that sort of person. As they walked away, Yumming sighed, thinking his friends were too innocent. In a crazy world like this, he knew you had to change and do whatever it took just to survive. Afterward, Shirao Yong gathered Shang and Zong for a meeting. Shang told us that Zong and his friends were finally settled, while Shang, still very sick, lay in a locked-up infirmary under watch just as Zong had planned. Shirao Yong thanked them for their hard work and told them to rest. Before they went, he told them to watch Zong's friends closely because he knew one of them would soon turn bad. Once he was in the storage area, Xiang checked his system and, eager not to waste any resources, bought 3 boxes. He opened 3 boxes, one with 50 corn seeds, another packed with plenty of meat and noodles, and the last holding 100 rounds of 9mm bullets. He knew these rewards were gold since money was useless, so using system points to get what he needed was his only hope for a new life. The next morning, a group of suspicious folks crept up to Xiaoyong's fortress. Right there was the guy he'd fought with in traffic just a few days ago. He led his gang to tear down the fortress gate. But even after pounding on it for ages, they couldn't break the solid steel, and one man couldn't believe it would build such a heavy door for their own home. After failing, they brought out heavy machines and tossed Molotov cocktails at the building, which quickly turned into a huge fire. Everyone rushed outside with buckets of water to fight the fire, but the tank was nearly empty. While the fire raged, Xiang didn't try to help. He grabbed his gun and climbed up to the watchtower. When Xiang reached the top, he spotted the attacker, the same man who had harassed Shou Yong in traffic days earlier, and shouted for Shou Yong to come down and settle it like men, but Shou Yong gave them 5 minutes to leave while a new mission appeared in his system, ordering him to eliminate the threat outside his base for 10 reward points. Xing thought a warning shot would scare them away, but Shou Yong stood his ground, saying that in this apocalypse, anyone attacking another's base deserved real bullets. The very first shot he fired ripped the gang leader's arm right off. Xiao Yang spoke in a quiet voice, admitting he had missed the key spot because his skills were a bit dull, so he decided to use the bandits for some target practice. The gang froze in terror and scrambled for their cars to get away, but Xiao Yang ended their panic by taking out each driver with deadly shots to the chest, neck, and head. Even the people who managed to reach the car couldn't escape because he kept firing at it until he ran out of bullets. Shang saw that Xiang could reload and shoot with amazing skill and pinpoint accuracy. It made him think Xiang might have been a soldier. Shang's curiosity about the young man's life before the world ended grew stronger. Once the attackers were all dead, Shou Yong told Shang to get everyone to clean up the mess, but then he changed his mind. He thought the world ending was just getting started. Maybe we should leave the bodies there to rot into zombies so they can help us train later. While Ku Jing and Shu Hia were walking down the road with Chong, he was making his way along the path at the same time. Next, they headed straight to the mighty fortress of Xiang's. Sitting in the car, Ku Jing already suspected that Shu Hia was trying to take advantage of the situation and hurt Shu Hia. As soon as the car stopped by the fortress, Ku Jing shouted for Shuya to get out, but she just wouldn't leave. Cushing demanded to leave, but Shuya felt that just glancing at the spot from inside the car was enough to know where they were. Even so, Qing ended up physically dragging Shui out by force. While Shu Kong got his gang ready, a car trailing them was packed with armed men waiting to take their lives. Shu Kong grumbled, wondering why Ku Jing had pulled her into that whole trouble. Ku Jing called Shu Kong a fake friend out to hurt her, while Shu Kong insisted she just wanted to help, but Kubu Jing stopped arguing to look at something on the ground. Shocked, she asked what had happened, and after Malcolm Chubu Jin checked the blood on the many dead bodies and said they had been there for hours, she guessed that groups might have fought over Xiaoyang supplies, leading Kaijing to conclude that Xiaoyang was probably dead, but she quickly added that she didn't care if he was alive or dead as long as they could get the supplies. Right then, the gang leader Huang, who had been shot before, started to rise even though he was badly hurt. They walked right up to the fortress gate. Hu Jing grumbled that the gate was a terrible blind wall since you couldn't see anything on the other side. Shua said that if the door was locked, it likely meant Zhao Yong was safe. Then Chan Shan showed up and asked the two women who they were and how they knew about the place. Shia claimed they were friends of Shirao Yong, while Kuei Jing stepped up and introduced herself as his girlfriend. Chan Shan went to tell him that two women were at the gate, and one was saying she was his girlfriend. Kuei Jing asked if Xiao Yang had found a new girlfriend, but Shua said there were bigger things to discuss, while Shuya worried that Kuei Jing's armed men might stop Xiao Yang from forcing his way in with his own guns and storming party. As Xiao Yang showed up, he asked in a cold voice what they were doing there. With his special power, he saw right through their lies, knowing that Xiang's fake worry was just a cover for their plan to kill him. He asked them straight out if Shukong really was nearby with his men, and how many people and weapons they had brought. He shot warning blasts near their feet to force them to stop acting. Xiaong chuckled, saying killing them was easy, but he had a smarter idea. He swung the gate open to show a terrifying army of infected zombies he'd unleashed inside to guard the place. Creatures lunged at Kuei Jing and Shua, who scrambled to run and scream for Shugzong to help. Suddenly, Shu Yong shouted a warning that infected people were close by and ordered everyone to turn back and leave the area right away. They left the girls behind without a care, but Kuei Jing refused to face death alone, so he chose to shove Weikia down instead. As Shuai was caught, Kuei Jing slipped away, her heart racing as she kept telling herself she was doing the right thing by letting Shuai have what he deserved. With 18 points to his name after wiping out the threats, Liang got his next big job: clear the area outside the base of all monsters and infected to earn another 10 points. Down at the bottom, Shan asked if everyone had turned into zombies. Xiong told us the end had finally started, since the sickness was now floating through the air. Even though everyone had been infected, they wouldn't turn into zombies until they died. So he asked them to gather the whole group for a meeting and told them that no one could leave the base for the next 2 days. They had to keep every door and window shut so they could dodge the zombies and let their bodies adjust to the infection without the scary risk of changing into something worse. Jung warned that Chong was badly hurt, and in the infirmary, the virus was already changing him. In the middle of the city, everything was falling apart, not just because of the zombies, but because of the people running wild. Jung peered through his window, watching the mess unfold, and convinced himself it was pure chaos. He told his wife and son he had to sneak into the warehouse at night for supplies and beg them to stay locked inside. Just as he was in the middle of that, someone knocked on the door. He grabbed a golf club to defend himself, then relaxed when he heard Yong Tao's voice, only to find out too late that his safety was an illusion. Yong Tao kicked Shang to the ground and shoved him toward his gang, while Shang begged to argue that he'd always been kind, only to have Yong Tao call him a worthless tool, and when Shang countered that without him, Yong Tao would be sleeping on the street. The argument fell apart. Yong Tao admitted Shang still had enough money to buy several houses, but when he demanded the warehouse address and keys, Shang said no, which made Yong Tao so angry he threatened to take his wife instead. Shan Sun tried to fight back by biting Yong Tao, but got beaten, so Shan yelled at the attackers to call him a coward and take him instead of hurting his family. Yong Tao promised that Shan's family would stay safe if he cooperated, and then ordered them to lead everyone to the warehouse. When they finally arrived, Yong Tao was upset that so little was left and asked if that was all, but Zhang explained that he had found a big client who bought everything. In that very instant, Yong Tao recalled Xe Yong and realized that if they could only grab some supplies from his factory, they'd never go hungry again. Shang urged them to flee fast, pointing out that Zile Yong had piled up weapons and supplies, and Jean joked that the guy must have been right about the world ending. Yong Tao declared it their problem to fix and commanded Zhang to make a deal with Xiao Yong, promising that his son would stay safe if he agreed. Meanwhile, at Xiang's base, everyone gathered in the infirmary to watch Chong, who had already turned into his full form. His friends were crushed, so Yumming argued that since he was already dead, killing him now was the only way to stop him from becoming a deadly danger if he ever woke up. Zhang questioned if he was ready to give up on his brother so quickly, only for Xiaoyang to shake his head and confirm that there was no hope left. Xiaoyang passed the knife to Aiming because he wanted it so badly and had been asking for a weapon since the moment they arrived, but Zhang stepped in to take it himself, and Xiaoyang then questioned if Zhang was really sure he meant it and if he was truly willing to become a killer. Shang said he believed his brother would see it through. Shirao Yong gave the go-ahead, allowing him to move forward. Just as Tsang was about to strike Chong down, Xiong yanked his arm back, halted the attack after catching a specific warning in his system, and then ordered everyone out of the room to check on this special situation alone. The system buzzed to tell him that a rare mutant had been spotted. Sitting alone with Chong in the infirmary, Xiong confirmed Chong's name and told him he had a very important job to do. In the busy city, Shang lost control of the car while trying to run from the zombies and smashed right into a pole. As soon as he stepped out of the car and saw the zombie, his desperate struggle ended when the creature bit him. Even with time running out and the infection spreading through his body, he kept pushing forward with a crowbar in hand, driven to reach Xiang's base before it was too late. Down at the bottom, everyone grabbed their weapons and rushed outside. Shan grumbled that the new gear strapped to their bodies was uncomfortable. Xiaoyong explained that since zombies attacked with explosive force and never felt fear, even ordinary people without any fighting skills needed protective gear just to survive their bites. Sha saw a zombie at the corner and shouted for everyone to get ready. This was their first real fight against the undead. As the zombie lunged forward, Sha Yong shouted the rules. Stay back and strike where it hurts the most. He slipped out of the way with ease and said the perfect time to strike was right after a zombie missed its punch. The chubbier guy charged first and stabbed the zombie in the head, but it barely hurt and only cut him up, so Xiang told him he had to learn to hold the weapon right. The zombie lunged at the man, who held his blade up to defend himself. Even with the challenges ahead, Xiang admitted the defense held strong, yet he knew his friend's aid was still needed to succeed. That was the moment Zhang swung the bat hard enough to knock the zombie right off its neck, ending the training, but right after, Chong was beaten by the group while Xiang watched and said that was the only right way to fight. But he didn't see the zombie creeping up on him from the back. He easily grabbed the zombie's head and slammed it down, then said you must always keep an eye on your surroundings because another zombie could pop out at any moment. Meanwhile, Xiang kept moving towards Xiang's base. He couldn't help but wonder why so many zombies were crowding that one spot. Suddenly, he heard a noise far away and realized the group was killing the zombies. Xiang was right there too, looking like he was hunting those creatures. While hiding under a car, a zombie that looked just like Shua suddenly grabbed Xiang's leg. Just as the zombie was about to bite, Shirao Yong fired his gun and blew the creature's head apart. Shan shoved the bloody body away and, feeling a wave of relief that someone was still alive, watched as Shirao Yong saw the bite on Xiang's leg and immediately pointed his gun at his head. Xiang pleaded with him to stop and listen, saying that Yong Tao had betrayed him and was holding his family hostage. He confessed that while he wasn't perfect, he was only trying to save his innocent wife and children from blackmailers who were stealing supplies from Xiaoyang's base. So he begged for help to stop them. Xiang realized that even though Xiang had tried to make a profit by buying up all the supplies when the chaos started, it ended up keeping the fortress well stocked. He was ready to help, and the system pushed him further by promising a reward for the new mission to protect Xiang's family and rescue them. Zhang told Xiang not to worry, promising to handle the problem himself. Xiang was so grateful he promised that if he ever got another chance at life, he would pay back that debt. He begged Jiang to kill him before he could turn into a monster, while Xiang told Xiang to get a motorcycle and ride as far away as possible to keep everyone safe. Xiang nodded, gave a heartfelt thanks, and hopped onto the small bike to speed away with nothing but his will to survive, and after their zombie fighting training, Xiang reminded them that burning the dead was the only way to keep them from returning. By wiping out those creatures and netting 10 more points for a new total of 28, Xiang had finally pulled off the mission. He told the group this was just the start, proving they could already fight off small groups of enemies, then handed Xiang the key to the weapons room and made him the new guardian of the fortress. Xiang worried that Xiaoyong wouldn't make it through the city's total chaos on his own. Zhang invited Ying, Xiang, and himself to go along, but Yiming wasn't ready to move yet. Xiaoyong explained they weren't ready for such a big mission yet. So he trusted Xiang to keep things in order while he was gone, and later, in the car, he carefully checked every weapon before heading out. He watched the store stay empty as the items slowly appeared one by one. He chose to force a manual refresh, knowing it would cost him precious points. When he did that, 3 new boxes popped up, 2 he'd never seen before, and 1 he already knew, a level 1 black tech box, a medium supplies box, and a level 1 weapons box, but refreshing the list to see what else was there would cost him 4 points. Xiaoyong realized he had to stop spending points so carelessly, but he was sure the cost would be worth it. He spent his last 6 points on the black tech box, and a flash of light gifted him a physical strength potion along with 5 extra. Feeling surprised and happy, he used the power right away, boosting his strength to 13 points, which was more than double what a normal person could lift. While that was happening, Xiang's family was still held captive at his home. Yang Tao walked back into the room where they had been locked up. Some men tried to attack her, knocking her down and ripping her clothes. One grumbled that the noise was awful. Another shrugged it off as nothing new, while a third warned that the woman had nothing left to lose and might fight back with everything she had. He also warned that when her husband returned, trouble was coming. Yang Ta ordered them a halt and wait, shutting the family back inside the room. Xiang drove through the city with confidence, checking if the street was safe, feeling much stronger with his quick reflexes. He moved with ease, slipping past every obstacle in his path. But he had to halt as he stepped onto a street, so choked with zombies he couldn't move. He figured it was safer to keep walking than to stay in the car, so he stepped out and pressed on. 2 zombies charged at him, but Xiang didn't worry for a second. Now stronger than before, he tossed one zombie into the other to make space for him to pull a knife from his bag. With 2 clean cuts, he severed both zombies' heads easily, realizing that in this form, he was far too strong to lose to a normal zombie. His senses were so sharp they felt almost superhuman, and soon he heard a commotion from 800 meters away. The system buzzed, telling him a surprise mission had just appeared. He saw that a huge crowd of zombies had trapped some people who needed saving. They huddled inside the convenience store, racing to stack up a barricade before they were killed. Amidst the grown-ups, a desperate child was there too. An armed police officer stood guard inside, but everyone knew his lone pistol couldn't stop the huge crowd outside. He began to wonder if they could ever get out of that mess alive, just as a huge commotion suddenly erupted outside. The air was filled with the sound of zombies falling, screams, and blood splattering everywhere, while the sight of a head smashing into a store window made everyone feel terrified. The officer ordered a check on the street outside, so the team broke down the barricade only to find a whole horde of zombies lying dead. They guessed who might have done it, but the boy insisted it had to be a mutant, a tougher kind of zombie, while his dad shook his head and reminded him that such things only live in stories, especially since the boy's poor grades were a result of wasting time on such silly thoughts. The officer told him to stop fighting with the boy right then. They stepped softly along the sidewalks to make sure every zombie was truly gone. That's when they bumped into Xiang, who was busy checking his system and reviewing the mission after he'd just finished saving those people and earned 5 points. The kid stared him down with total confidence, insisting he had to be a mutant, but the officer just thought he looked like any other survivor. Xiaoyong laughed and told the child that while mutants were real, they were just a rare fantasy. The officer felt a huge relief finding another survivor, but he urgently warned them that staying out there was dangerous and told them they could join his group. Joying asked if they were the only ones in the group, but the officer shook his head, explaining that they had just stepped out to grab supplies while many others were already waiting for help at Reincarnation Garden. Xiang confirmed he knew the way to Jinyu's nearby mansion, and the father of the child agreed to let him join them, claiming the captain had a weapon so everyone could be safer together while pretending to be just a harmless survivor, to which Xiang thanked them sincerely for their kindness. Together, they slowly made their way back toward Reincarnation Garden. While they were traveling, the child's father asked Xiaoyong if he needed to save someone important like a girlfriend or family member, joking that even in a world ending, he should check if they were already dead, to which the officer agreed that the real monsters weren't just zombies, but also cruel humans, pointing out a deadly group in a mountain village that hunted people just to survive. He claimed his friends were killed by them, but said they'd tell more about it later. Right in the middle of their chat, the kid shouted that a zombie was coming up behind the officer, who luckily turned fast enough to shoot it right between the eyes. But the gunshot drew the attention of a whole horde. The officer forced himself to stay calm and frantically searched for an escape route until he finally saw a bus he could hide inside. He screamed for everyone to rush over there. Xiaoyong thought the officer was sharp, and while the bus made for perfect cover, he worried it might tip over and leave them with nowhere to run. So he gave the decision a solid 7 out of 10. Xiaoyong slipped in last, just managing to shut the door behind him. Zombies hammered on the bus, trying to flip it over, but the officer was too weak to keep the door shut. Xiaoyong stood up and slammed the door shut with one hand, crushing the zombie's face right against it. The officer was stunned, unable to figure out where all that strength had come from. Xiaoyong told us he was holding the door, but warned that to stop the horde, we'd have to smash the windows and fight from there. The group smashed the bus windows and then used their weapons to stab the zombies' heads from above. The officer saw his bullets running low and felt the tension rise as he gripped his pistol tighter. Xiaoyong easily pulled out a crossbow and gave it to him, telling him he could use it. The officer asked where Xiaoyong got his weapon, and after Xiaoyong said he'd picked it up to save for a moment, the officer used that crossbow with bolts to kill the zombies much better. After a while, they finally calmed things down and made it off the bus. The excited child cheered, shouting that they were winning, had escaped twice already, and were destined to survive. Xiaoyong gave a small smile, but told the group to stay on their toes, since things were still wild, while he also worried that everyone back at his base was okay. Meanwhile, at the base, Yumming stepped up to keep watch through the dark hours. His friend mocked him, saying it was about time he did something. One of the others whispered that he'd been acting super weird lately. Xiang noticed Yumming's bravery and suggested he guard the area alone that night, while everyone else got some rest. So, when the night fell, Yumming climbed up to the watchtower. He glanced around, saw everyone asleep, and knew he had no time to waste. He reached for the storage room key, but Xiang woke up right before he could take it. Even so, Yumming reacted fast, struck Xiang, and bolted away with the key. The loud noise woke everyone up, and Xiang immediately asked what was going on. Xiang revealed that Yumming had taken the key to the weapons storage. A crowd surged behind him as Yumming dashed to the infirmary to free Chong during the escape. He was shocked to find Chong's hand already loose, wondering if someone had done it on purpose. He figured it out and realized it was just right for his plan. When the others arrived in the hallway, they found Yoing had set Chong free, leaving Shin shocked and muttering that he never thought that kid could turn into a monster. Shang warned that Yiming would now have access to every weapon, but Shang urged everyone to stick to the plan Xiaong had taught them earlier, while Shang reminded them to be very careful not to get bitten. They managed to hold Chong back and throw him into the infirmary, locking the door tight, but he didn't stir a bit and looked far too calm to be a zombie. Shan found it odd that he hadn't tried to bite or attack, but Shin said Yiming must have already been holding a weapon by then. Shortly after, Yiming arrived with a submachine gun, telling us it was nothing but junk since it was the last one left in the depot. He insisted that Xiaoyang had tricked everyone from the very beginning, so Yiming ordered everyone to go back to their rooms, even though the weapon was terrible. Zhang asked what they planned to do next, pointing out that Shirao Yong had saved their lives, but Yiming argued it didn't matter, because Shirao Yong could use their debt against them later, and since Shirao Yong was always arrogant and rude, he would probably enslave them for the rest of their lives after saving everyone. Shan shouted that he had never met anyone so ungrateful, while a friend begged him to stop. But Yiming silenced them all and commanded them to go back to their rooms. In that very second, Chong showed up with the key to his infirmary, while over at Rangshan Garden, Xiaoyong walked alongside a group of survivors who had just found him, guided by a policeman who told them to keep going past the roundabout to reach Jinu's mansion. He also warned that the residential area was a twisted maze where zombies could easily hide, so he urged Xiong to be careful and told him that if he wanted to come back, they were waiting for him at Rangshan Garden, Building 8, where everyone had gathered. Shirao Yong gave thanks, but one of the men looked worried and asked if it was truly safe to let him walk away alone after he had helped kill so many zombies. The policeman said they had no idea what waited inside the mansion and warned that if they all rushed and only to get trapped by a horde, they would die there, adding that they had already done their part and that Xiong was going in because he wanted to. Outside Jinyu's mansion, a massive crowd of zombies had gathered. Yang Ta noted that with no signal, he was unable to reach Xiong and had no way of knowing if the job was done. The bald man said he didn't care and decided he'd unleash all his frustration tonight, or he wouldn't be able to sleep at all. Some of them whispered that Sham was likely already dead, so they planned to enjoy the woman this time with no regrets. The blond man warned them not to regret their choice later, but just as he spoke, he spotted something odd. He couldn't help but wonder if the horde of zombies below had been wiped out just seconds before. He rushed up the stairs, hoping to find help that had finally arrived. In the blink of an eye, his neck was cut in one swift sweep. That group was ready to do terrible things to the woman and her son inside that room. The boy was shunted into the room's corner and then shoved right out the door. When the door to his mother's room was locked, he spotted a headless man hitting the floor. Outside, Xiaong asked calmly if he was Shan's son, while inside, the woman took a hard beating from the man. The door flew open with a kick, and the first person to rush in was instantly cut down. The whole group stood frozen, completely stunned. Yang Tao didn't have a moment to react before he was slammed hard against the wall. The bald man asked who he was, only to get a hard kick in the face as an answer. While that was happening, Yaming stayed at the bottom and kept sending everyone back to their rooms. Shun urged Shin to listen to Yiming, who had a weapon, so it was safer to follow his orders. Yiming roared that anyone thinking they could scheme against him was dead wrong. He warned that without proving who was truly in charge, he couldn't rule, and he even declared that the old man would be the first to die. Everyone was sure Shang would be killed right then. Suddenly, a strange sound drifted out from the infirmary. The door swung open, and there was Chong, holding the key. He was so angry he foamed at the mouth and lunged at Yiming. Seeing this, Yiming declared that he could not let a zombie who knew how to use keys survive. When he pulled the trigger and nothing happened, he didn't realize Shou Yong had never left him a gun that could fire. Chong grabbed his chance and put an end to Yiming right away. After filling his belly, Chong pulled the body back to the infirmary. Everyone was puzzled why Chong hadn't attacked anyone else until Yiming Chong locked the door, tossed the key away, and stayed inside alone while Xiong captured Yong Tao and his gang. He gestured for the boy to join them, and when the mother asked what he wanted to do, the boy simply said it was fine. Xiao Yong passed a knife to Xiaoyi, begging him to slay the men who had caused so much harm, but Yong Tao and the other criminals couldn't stop him from going through with it. Xia Yong's wife pleaded that Shou was still just a child, but Shou Yong insisted the apocalypse had started and everything had changed forever. He told the boy he must now protect his mother and find the guts to kill the monsters who hurt him. So with shaking hands, Xiaoyi finally took out the bad man. Then tears streamed down his face as he begged to know where his father was and if he was truly gone. Xiao Yang sadly confirmed that his father was gone. The mother and her son felt their hearts break. The woman begged Xiaong to take her son along for safety, and Xiaong happily agreed, promising the late Xiong that he would protect both of them. Later, they left Jinyu's mansion, and Zaioi asked who had taken out all the zombies along the way. Xiaong admitted he was the one, and that answer made the boy feel amazed. Next, he asked the woman if she knew the area well, and she said she knew how to get anywhere there, which would be very useful for the group. While things were happening elsewhere, a gang of criminals was trying to break into Building 8 of Rang. The people inside fell trapped because they didn't have strong enough weapons to fight the bandits. The cops at the front warned everyone not to believe the criminals, explaining that giving them the keys would only get them all killed. Some residents thought they could ask for mercy, but a terrified woman made it clear she didn't want anyone to touch her. The officers insisted they must hold the stairs, for without that grip the invaders would have no way to climb up. Outside, one of the criminals admitted that the armed group inside knew the policeman was experienced. Even though the attackers' leader gave up on a direct attack and chose to cut off the water and power, hoping the residents would give in, Xiong was ready with his AK-47, and when Xiaoyi asked if those men were bad, Xiong simply said they were the same kind of people who had hurt him and his mother. The officers inside the building moved forward slowly to check things out and keep everyone safe. He moved to the window to peek outside, heard gunshots, and quickly realized they weren't meant for the building but for the criminals in the street. He watched as Xiong swept through the bandits without a second thought, killing several of them, while the few who hid and fired their pistols missed completely like clumsy amateurs. The head of the criminal gang trembled in fear at Xiong's savage attacks, puzzled and scared by this madman's sudden appearance. Just as he tried to make the last survivor pull the trigger to kill him, something unexpected happened. As soon as he stood up, Xiong moved fast, dodged, held the pistol to his own neck, and fired without any pause before wiping out everyone attacking him and stepping into the 8th building. The crowd, at first thinking he was a criminal and ready to fight him, quickly realized who he really was, felt relieved by the police leading them out safely, and gave Xiao Jiang a huge cheer for being so incredible. Right then, Zhou Yang got a new mission from the system. He had to grab 5 survivors from Rangshan Garden to earn 25 points. He asked the police officers who those people were. The cop told us that the Biquashan gang, a scary bunch, ruled the south of the city. The officer asked the locals how to reach the place, and one man warned them that the gang there was heavily armed and well supplied. Another person added that they had taken all the villagers of Biquashan as hostages. Zhao Yong thought back to his old life and recalled that Xuan and Kajing had once stayed at a southern base, so maybe those were the same bad guys who had attacked his base before. He wondered if the Baikushian were the only people living in the south. A man explained that they weren't always like this, but had murdered everyone else to seize control. So he decided they had to be dealt with and asked the officers to search the dead criminals for any leftover bullets. He told the cops they could keep the AK-47 they found, but warned that the bikers would definitely send more riders to get their revenge for the defeat. He said they'd likely send 10 more men to help, and that we'd need to hold the building for a few more days while he fixed things. Someone warned that he couldn't do it by himself and would die if he tried. The policeman agreed it was too risky and not safe for long, but Xiang assured them it was just his personal business with the bike. He promised to lead everyone east to the fortress he'd built and told them to stay alert until they got there. While at the Biquashan base, zombie bodies hung like scary decorations. Inside, Shukong sat at a table with others, caught up in a meeting. A man wearing glasses, Chef Lin, turned to Shukong and asked if he'd finally fixed the supply issue. Shukong said he'd sent a few folks to handle things, and they'd be back any minute now. Kai pointed out that with so many allies staying in the mansion, they couldn't just rush off to the entertainment district to grab supplies. Xiong told us we were all in the same boat, and that his people had already been sent to gather everyone and everything we needed. But Lin was still wondering if he had really failed to finish the one thing he'd been asked to do. Xiong tried to calm him down by promising that everything would go perfectly this time. But later, Shakong grew worried and asked where his team had gone since they hadn't returned yet. One man said he sent a group to check on the trouble from an hour ago, but they never returned because they had all been killed. Shakshin was stunned to find out that ordinary civilians in Rangshan Garden had killed them, leaving him baffled as to how so many armed men could have failed so badly. So he gathered everyone together and vowed they would not make the same mistake again. Meanwhile, Xiang was heading back to his base. When Shayan heard the car come, his excitement grew. The moment he stepped in, he finished the job, took the blame, and picked up 25 points to bring his total to 36. Shayan felt a huge weight lift off her shoulders the moment she saw him return. Shyam claimed Yumming saved him, leaving Shayan shocked and wondering if he'd known the truth all along. But Xiang simply asked Jiang to bring Shan Shan and her son to the infirmary. Later, they asked him if he really knew Yiming was the traitor. Xiong admitted he wasn't sure, but he thought one of Zhang's friends was up to no good, which is why he left only a fake weapon in the depot to stay safe. Shun then raised another serious point, warning that Chong, who was resting in the infirmary, had suddenly started acting very strange. Xiong admitted that he knew he was a special zombie, an incredibly rare mutant. As Xiong stepped into the infirmary, he asked Chong if he could understand him, signaling to blink 3 times if he could, which Chong did. So Xiong explained that since the apocalypse began, some infected had mutated into smarter, more dangerous creatures that kept pieces of their past memories. He said they were super lucky to have Chong around, especially since he was that kind of rare person who could step on Ying's head while walking, only to get a playful grin and wave from his friends. Xiong saw no reason to wait, and told everyone to finish off Yamian right away. Chong quickly pulled Yiming away. Chong wondered if Chong still remembered him. Chong glanced at him, fake grabbed Zhang's bag, and made Zhang groan that he's still the same idiot who needs to keep his hands to himself, even as a zombie, proving Chong just wanted to tease him. Later, Xiong checked his system and found he'd earned a new achievement for his mutant companion, giving him 10 more points and bringing his total to 46. Inside the system store, you could find a level 1 medical box, a level 1 weapons box, and a fancy level 2 high-tech box that cost 50 points. Xiong spotted his first level 2 box, but thought it was too pricey, so he bought the other 2 first and saved his point for later. Once he bought them, he had 36 points left. In the first box, he found a special shield that could stop or kill a strange infection before it took hold, even if someone was already sick, but it couldn't fix their body if they had already changed forever. Inside the second box, he discovered a deadly sniper rifle and a lot of bullets. Thinking about how the box could stop someone from turning into a zombie, he decided to open it later and focus on his next mission to save the survivors from Rangshan Garden for 25 points instead. While outside, Chong was tossing Yum's body away. The next morning, Xiaoyong started the shooting practice with the group, taking turns popping cans and bottles to aim. After a bit, he told Xiong to round up the survivors hiding in Rangshan Garden so they could be moved to the base later that afternoon. Chong was picked to join him on this dangerous mission. On their journey, they stumbled upon a bus stranded in the road and had to violently drag every zombie out of it. After that, Xiaoyong gave Chong the key to unlock his muzzle. He explained that he'd only need to wear the mask when they stepped into Rangshan Garden to avoid scaring anyone, while Shuk Zhang was getting his team ready to finish the mission and prove they weren't going to lose again. So Xiong jumped on the bus he'd found and drove straight through the zombies and broken cars without a second thought. With no cars around, he used the empty road to move ahead without a care in the world. At the same time, the survivors huddled in the 8th building and carefully shared out their meager supplies. Even though things were hard, everyone was still alive when a boy with his father heard a car coming. The police officer in the group checked who was there first to keep everyone safe. He watched from a distance and saw that it wasn't Xiong coming, but rather Shak Tsung with his group. They were packed with weapons, clearly ready to storm and destroy the building. The officer spotted the bandits from Quashan Mountain and shouted that they were enemies, not friends. Someone said that this time they were ready for revenge and felt sure they could win because they had guns. But the officer warned that the enemy held the high ground, so he sprinted to the rooftop for a better view and told his team to stick to their plan. Meanwhile, Shikyong and his men stepped back to find the perfect spot. Then they loaded their submachine guns and fired together in a coordinated attack. Just as Shikyong grabbed the loudspeaker to warn the group inside, one of his allies got shot in the head, and another was hit in the leg before he could even speak. The police officer perched safely on the roof was the one firing his AK-47. The enemy group was shocked because they thought the residents only had a pistol. Shukong was shocked to see the automatic rifle and admitted he had no idea how they got it. So he told everyone to hold their ground until he gave the signal to retreat. One of his men, getting too impatient, tried to run away too early and got shot in the head. They didn't start pulling back in order until the signal came. Even though they fought back, the enemy shot them down one by one until Shukong saw his defeat was certain. So he sent his men as a distraction to get into the car, leaving a wounded soldier behind who was quickly killed by the officer's bullets. In the meantime, Xiong was still making his way along the road. On his path, he saw Shukzong's car, but let them go since he needed to focus on something even more important. When Xiong reached the 8th building, he realized the AK-47 gift he'd given was truly useful. Chong's eyes lit up with hunger as he saw the dead bodies, and Xiaoyong, also starving, let him feast on the corpses of their enemies before they turned into zombies anyway. So Chong started eating the dead bodies, not just to stop his hunger, but to get his strength back by feeding on human flesh. As they walked past the fallen enemies, Xiaoyong remarked that Officer Hong had taken many lives. The folks peering from the window finally spotted him and rushed downstairs to greet him. Hungi and his friends joined him on the ground floor, where Xiaoyong proudly confirmed that they had fought off the bandits and found it much easier to defend themselves with that special weapon. Suddenly, a weird sound made them all stop and listen. A zombie crept closer, making the group point their guns at it in fear, not knowing it was Chong yet. Xiaoyong told them not to worry because Chong was right there, but Hung still thought it was pretty odd to have a zombie as a friend. Xiang explained that Chong was no ordinary zombie and promised to tell them everything as they rode the bus back together with everyone else. Before that, Xiang begged Chong to devour his food as fast as he could. Later, Chong slid on a muzzle that also acted as a mask to keep the other passengers from getting scared. A child wondered if he had put on the mask himself, but Xiang warned him to speak carefully around Chong, who would easily get offended and might react angrily. When Chong hopped on a bus, he was so heavy that the whole vehicle shook under his weight. Hong was blown away by how strong Chong was, and after Chong finished eating, he reached out to give the bus key back to Xiaoyang while mumbling a few words. It was plain to see that he had changed into something monstrous by feeding on people. Now able to speak simple words like a child learning to talk, he was on his way to becoming even stronger and smarter in the future. So despite not being a normal zombie, the group kept moving back to the base while Shukong returned defeated and dejected, only to face harsh scolding at the base for failing once again. He tried to explain that he didn't know the enemies had automatic rifles, but the boss didn't believe him and asked how some peasants could have gotten such a weapon. So Shukjong offered to send someone to check if he didn't trust him. In that instant, Katage sent him crashing to the floor with a kick, booted him out of the room, and shouted that he was a failure. Another group member said Kaidig only wanted the woman who stayed close to Shoang. Kage flatly refused, insisting it had nothing to do with that and trying to defend himself with a sarcastic smile. The boss told everyone to relax and wait for the perfect time to fix the problem. Furious from hearing everything, Shukong smashed everything around him in anger while his ally Qi tried to calm him down, but Shukong remained determined and declared they should pack nothing because they were leaving. Feeling that waiting was too dangerous, he decided to run and told everyone to collect the last survivors so they could escape just after midnight, right as the bus carrying the people from Rangshan Garden pulled up at the base. Shang had done his job by getting 5 people from our Shang Garden, but he brought back 8 survivors and earned 5 extra points, bringing his total to 66. He told Chong that come nightfall, they'd head south of the city. Hongyi questioned why they were heading to such a dangerous place, and Xiang answered that he still had unfinished business with the people from Backwishin. Back in his room, Xie Yong studied his system one last time, ready to grab the final level 2 high-tech crate. Xie Yong dipped his last 50 points into the system to grab the top-tier high-tech crate, watching his balance drop to just 16 points left. He hoped the crate wouldn't let him down, and when he opened it to find a powerful physical enhancement serum and 20 gold, he was shocked to see such a huge prize inside a level 2 box. He rubbed the serum into his skin, and his body surged with power, reaching 33 points of strength, more than 6 times what a normal person could lift. His reflexes had sharpened so much that he snatched an insect out of the air without even trying. After Xiang packed up to catch the bus for his next mission to solve the last problems, Hong Lu was sparring with his weapons and spotted him getting ready to go. He offered to help, but Xiang insisted he just guard the spot since Hong Lu was an amazing shot and could train the others. Hong Lu nodded and admitted it was his thing, so Xiang and Chong boarded the bus to begin their mission while Shuk Zhang tried to sneak away with his crew in the dead of night at the bus Han base. But the moment they stepped away, a car sped up to block them, carrying Chief Dong Shu, Ka, and Kajing. Dong Shu asked, "Who do you think you're going to?" Shuk Chong tried to lie and said he was just going to Rangshan Garden to finish a mission that would catch him. Dong Shu commanded them to speak the truth, so they hurled the corpse of one of Shu Kong's messengers right at his feet. One of his own men stepped in to say the stranger was a friend, but Shuk Chong, shaking with fear, punched him hard and insisted he had never seen that face before. Dong Shu and his men opened fire on all of Shu Kong's men without any pause, killing them instantly and leaving Shu Kong as the only survivor. Dong Shu sneered, saying someone in the car was a big mouth. That was the moment Shuk Zhang found out Qing had turned on him and told everyone his secrets, and he was so angry that he screamed at her for daring to betray him. Katage begged to know what would happen to Shu Kong, and Dong Shu ordered them to kill him right then. Shu Kong had no way to fight back, so he was hanged right in front of the base as a dark warning to anyone else who might turn traitor. As Shu Kong stepped off the bus, he was the very first thing she saw. He looked at Chuck Zong's terrible end and convinced himself it was something he deserved. Even so, he saw a use for him, freeing the zombie corpse and deciding that even in such a tragic end, Chuck Shone could still help him get revenge. Inside the Buin base, things had gone so wrong that it was hard to even describe, with Q Jang in barely any clothes and caught in a very private moment with Lin. Kai did caught a strange sound from outside, while everyone was distracted. He peeked out and saw that the guards were dead, while someone knocked on the door to draw their attention. Shurao Yong crept up silently from behind, leaving no time for them to react before he cut Kige's throat and ended his life without a sound. He then threw another knife with perfect aim straight into Lin's head, killing him in an instant and splashing blood everywhere, even over Ku Jing. Terrified, she spotted Shirao Yong and quickly asked how he got there and what he wanted. Xiao Yang watched her having a great time and joked about how he would react if he saw it. Ku Jing tried to react, but it was too late as Sha Yong let go of the zombie Sha Kong, who didn't care about his old friend and lunged straight for Ku Jing, who was tied up and couldn't fight back. She ended up dead, eaten alive by the very person she had hurt. Later, Xiang told Chong to eat the dead bodies lying all over the base. Thanks to his new superhuman hearing, Xiang spotted voices from a nearby building where bandits were threatening hostages. One voice claimed that a child would be the perfect meal, but the boss, a heavy man, disagreed and claimed she was too thin, suggesting instead they try out a boy who was much rounder. The child was ripped from her mother's embrace while she begged for mercy, crying out to spare her son. While they were frozen in fear, a massive crash shook the ground outside. The boss thought he heard a shotgun blast, but someone else whispered that only he owned that kind of gun. Just as the child was returned to her mother, the door creaked open, and though the boss sent a man to check, he instantly regretted it when Chong, looking like a hungry predator, violently grabbed him while the bandits fired wildly at him in vain. Chong crashed through the window like it was paper, snapped the boss's neck, and crushed every other criminal with terrifying strength while leaving the hostages safe, leaving the scared crowd wondering what kind of monster this was that didn't attack them. Xiang showed up a minute later, telling Chong he did a great job without even taking off his mask. Chong said the mask turned everything into a blast. The hostages were terrified by a zombie speaking, especially after a child claimed it was a powerful monster that had killed everyone. Xiao Yang told the group to relax, saying that Chong wouldn't hurt them. The mother of the child said she'd seen something like that before, noting that in the eastern part of the city, there lived a creature just like it. Xiang paused, stunned that these strange changes were happening so fast. He had expected it to take another month or two before such things became common. The eastern city of Decor wasn't far away, so he realized that rare mutants like Chong must exist, ranging from zombies who kept some of their mind to become deadly hunters to others who had turned into unstable, violent monsters that posed a grave danger to all. Chong asked Xiao Yong if he was one of those scary mutants. Xiao Yong told Chong not to worry, because unlike those others, he was actually one of the luckiest people alive. As long as XY was near, he could keep his sanity, so Xiong asked if anyone else was still alive in that place. When they went down to the basement after hearing that people were still trapped in locked rooms, they found a horrifying mess that looked like a slaughterhouse filled with dead bodies. Xiao Yang realized the silence of the area meant survivors were being hunted for meat or starved to death. Sha Yong asked about the office they talked about, and one of the men said it was just a kilometer past the south gate, where people were being locked up and likely to meet the same terrible end. That was when Xiong got a fresh mission from the system named Utopia Subpar, to grow and fix his community to get the best score he could, and with just 2 progress points in hand, he knew that finishing the job would reward him with 20 system points on top of the 36 he already possessed. The guard at the sales office heard gunshots coming from the north gate. Before we could blink, Chong showed up and swept away every enemy with ease. The women, held as hostages in a ruined room, were terrified by the gunshots and the banging on the door. When they finally recognized Shay Yong, they felt relieved to know he was there and safe enough for them all to go. Soon, a line of survivors walked behind Xiao Yong through the ruined, corpse-filled wasteland, still trembling from the horror they had just seen. One of the women wondered if he truly meant it when he offered them a safe place to stay. Xiao Yong gave his word but said everyone had to pitch in. They agreed right away, their eyes lighting up with excitement at the thought of a safe place to hide. Xiao Yong told them not to waste a single moment. As everyone piled onto the bus, we rolled off toward the base. When they arrived, Sean breathed a sigh of relief that he was back, but Zhang urged them to hold off on opening the gate since Xiao Yong hadn't given a clear command, and Xiang explained that while his small housing complex next to the fortress wasn't as safe as the main walls, it was still much better than the terrible place they had just been rescued from. He said many buildings were still under construction and everyone had to pitch in to make things better, promising that those who showed they could be trusted would get to enter the main fortress. Just as day broke in the Vikuyan village, a delivery truck rolled up with a woman in the front seat who kept shouting at her boss through the radio for not answering. Feeling that something was terribly wrong, she pushed open the door to one of the rooms and found Lin and Cage lying dead, with clear signs that Xiang had just committed a terrible massacre. Shakong was the first to move, landing a single punch that sent him flying before she swiftly ended the other enemies with her knife. She told her men they had no choice but to handle it themselves and warned that anyone breaking the rules would die. As they walked through the village, they witnessed